Good Monday morning to you. I'm King 5 meteorologist Ashley Brew has taken a deeper dive into the forecast because it's about to get hot, hazy, and we're going to have an elevated fire danger because we're heating up, dry fuels, lower relative humidity, and so that's going to enhance our fire danger. Now, areas that had lightning strikes, so up in the mountains, especially going to be really vulnerable because if we still have smoldering conditions within those dry fuels, that could lead to some new fire starts, especially now until about Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Now, we're keeping a close eye on the forecast later in the week because we're going to have this area of low pressure remnants of what is an ongoing tropical storm way to the south. So off the coast of Mexico, it's going to lift to the north, and if we get some of that monsoonal moisture and that low tapping into that, we could get some showers, maybe even a few thunderstorms up in the mountains. Again, the forecast is clear as mud when it comes to the certainty with that. But what we are certain of is that after that, especially later in the week, our temperatures will start to come back down. But until then, don't forget we have a heat advisory that kicks in tomorrow morning and it lasts through Wednesday for all areas shaded in this orange. So that includes all up and down the I-5 corridor and then just away from the coast as temperatures are going to warm into the mid 80s to mid 90s. And the problem is we're not going to get a lot of relief overnight before we heat things up. So the weather team issued first alert weather days Tuesday and Wednesday because that's when the heat will peak. And then you see Thursday again, depending on what happens with that system, that's going to determine if we get some showers out of this or just some mid-level and high cloud cover out of it. We'll keep you posted, but temperatures should start to come back down, but they're likely going to come back down to seasonal averages by the weekend. So we'll keep you posted on that. So let's focus on the heat now because it is going to be pretty uncomfortable, especially if you work in the sun or you don't have ways to keep cool. Let's head outside because we have high clouds in place thanks to a system to our south, and then we have some wildfire smoke, especially eastern Washington, but some of this is going to move into portions of western Washington, especially once we get a push of offshore winds, that offshore flow. So here's a look at the satellite and radar. We have these mid-level and high clouds streaming in from the south. This is all because of a system to our south that's currently bringing some showers to portions of Oregon. In terms of the wildfire smoke, this is for near surface conditions. We have some thicker wildfire smoke closer to the actual wildfires, of course, but then we could get offshore again, northerly and northeasterly winds, if not easterly winds. That would send some of that wildfire smoke over central and eastern Washington, over the Cascades, and potentially impacting the Cascade foothills and valleys. But the north interior would likely get impacted from some of the wildfires in Canada. Now, this is the current air quality forecast. Of course, these are just some generic areas or broad views of the areas, so you want to make sure you check in with your local air quality center because for now, the north interior, including portions of Whatcom County, Skagit County, in that moderate category, but we could easily have some lower air quality in some particular spots. As for Tuesday, likely going to have air quality drops even more back down into the unhealthy for sensitive groups, so a code orange. So if you have any underlying conditions or asthma or anything of that nature, expect this, possibly even some lower drops. And I know Seattle is showing green for now, but we could easily have some drops lower than that. So it's just going to be kind of a wait and see deal, but just expect that, especially because it's going to be hot. That's going to make things feel rather stagnant and look rather stagnant as well. But when it comes to our wildfire smoke and even high clouds, that could lead to some really colorful sunrises and sunsets, kind of what we saw this morning. Let's talk temperatures for today. So up north, see over the islands and then portions of the Olympic Peninsula in the 70s. Meanwhile, interior areas in the mid 80s. And what I was talking about in terms of not a lot of relief overnight, no kidding. Check out around 10 o'clock tonight. We're still in the 70s. By 2 a.m., still in the upper 60s. And we won't hit our low temperature until closer to sunrise. So even if you open up your windows, which you likely should, at least air out your house if you don't have AC, that way it can cool off a little bit before we heat right back up tomorrow. So we're expecting widespread 80s and 90s. And you see for Puget Sound, especially the central and south sound and portions of the southwest interior, the Cascade foothills and valleys in the low and mid 90s. East of the Cascades, we're talking temperatures in the 90s and triple digits. Then we turn the page to Wednesday. Check out these highs once again. So low and mid 80s up north and low and mid 90s once again for Puget Sound. And then east of the Cascades, triple digit heat. And even if you're going up to the mountains, you see how hot it's going to be? That just shows how thick and high and how high in the atmosphere that this really hot air is. So it will sink, it will compress, and that will help warm us up. We also have what's called a thermal trough that's going to develop over the region. That's going to help bring us a push of offshore winds. So that is why we are concerned with these hot temperatures and that wildfire smoke. Thursday, again, I mentioned there are so many uncertainties, but likely still going to get a push of onshore winds, at least onshore flow. And you see how the coast cools down significantly. And as we well know, when we start to get that marine push again, it takes a little bit of time for that cooler air to make its way to Puget Sound. But it is likely going to still bring us temperatures back from the 90s down to the 70s and 80s. Then Thursday, this is a look at the futurecast. Again, this will likely change because we'll have to see what happens with the remnants of that tropical storm. It's not going to be one by the time it reaches up here, but that's why remnants of it, and we'll have a low, kind of similar to last week where we didn't really have a good feel on what would happen with the track of it until we got a little closer. That's going to be kind of the similar situation with this Thursday. But you see the European model shows most of any of the moisture would be in the higher elevations. And if that were the case, then it would be a better opportunity for thunderstorms maybe to develop over the mountains. Friday, there's a chance we get a shower or two, but all in all, next weekend still appears as though we'll have sun and clouds, temperature-wise in the 70s. But watch what happens as we wrap up the month and head into the first couple of days of August. We may wrap up the month with temperatures in the 70s, so instead of the 90s, that's much welcomed, especially if you compared the next couple of days. Remember, you can find the latest on the First Alert weather days on King 5 Plus, king5.com, as well as our free King 5 app. Please stay cool, please stay hydrated, and don't forget about your pets.